So this week I am going to do another mixed media spread in my art journal, and I decided to use the paper that was my stamp off when I was putting together my decorative tissue papers. It just looked so fun, and I thought, why let it go to waste? One thing I definitely want to do was use another one of the images that I had from ZinskiArt, because I just thought this little lady here was so adorable. So I know I want to use this, and I think I'm just going to use whatever colors are in here to kind of get going. So I found a few pieces of scraps, and I'm kind of thinking about maybe using some of the flowers on that page. Not really sure. And I love using torn book pages in my layouts. So I just am kind of tearing something back and trying to get it about the same size as these colored scraps that I have here. And really, what you're going to see here is me just trying to figure out how to arrange them. What colors do I want to use? And I really feel pretty strongly that these three colors are the colors. So just want to get a feel for what looks best. How do I want to arrange this, and what do I think would be fun? And while I'm letting that settle, I'm also getting some book pages that I'm punching out, and I believe I'm using a 2-inch punch just to add some circular elements to this. And I'm also punching out some little 1-inch. So I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, but getting a few just to kind of help with my layout. Maybe I want another couple scraps of some book pages. You know, I sometimes struggle with what's the best composition for the page, and I've always understood that odd numbers are better than even when you have different elements on your page, and you typically want a balance, top to bottom, left to right. But, you know, ultimately, I think if it feels good to you, then it probably is okay. I'm just trying to figure out what I'm going to do here, and I've got a few different stencils and just trying to get going and decide where I want to start. So sometimes you just have a little bit of a block, and it's hard to get going. I just grabbed some different craft paints. You know, I'm just really trying to use up my old supplies, and these are nothing special. Trying to, I think that might be a little bit too yellow. Add some green here. But really just trying to bring those colors from my little image into this and use up some supplies in the process. So they're not exact, but I think they're pretty close. And I'm okay if the yellow and the blue mix to make somewhat of a green. And also if the blue and the pink mix, it'll make a bit of a purple. So I am not bothering to dry these in between. I'm okay if those colors blend. You know, remember that your primary colors will blend together to make the secondary colors, and that's okay. You just have to make sure that when you're doing this, that the two colors will actually make something other than mud. So I don't think I'm getting mud here, so I feel pretty good about it. A little bit of reverse stenciling just to add a few little elements of circular shapes here. I am taking a pair of scissors and just roughing up the edges of each of these pieces of cardstock. I'm not really sure why. I don't know if it will actually show, but it just felt like I needed to do this. And so I am going to do this on all 3 pieces. Now, my trusty assistant is recommending that I use this special tool that she has. So, you know, I told her not to worry about it, but she hands it to me anyway. So I'm going to give it a whirl. And I don't know, this could be really handy, but it's not working so hot with this piece of scrapbook paper. I guess maybe it's just a little too thin, but honestly, the scissors works just fine for me. But anyway, I had to give it a whirl. So I'm going to stick these down, and I'm just alternating my colors so that I'm not going to lose those into the, let's just cover up those dots that I made. Who wants to see those anyway? I love doing this kind of layout where you really aren't thinking so much, you're just making it happen. And, you know, and it to me is so fun to just be surprised with what comes out with your final layout. And as you're doing it, if you don't like something, you cover it up, you change it, you mix it up. So I'm going to just start sticking down some of these circles that I punched out of my book pages. You know, I often reach for my gesso, and I'm not really sure why, but I guess I just really enjoy the way this looks, and kind of gives it that, what's the word I'm trying to look for? Distressed look, but there's something about gesso that makes me happy. Let's just stick it in there somewhere, and then it just ultimately it always ends up looking good to me. And even if it doesn't, you could always bring back some color. You know, if you get too much, that's the beauty of gesso. It's, you know, it allows you to put whatever you want on top of it. So whenever I don't know what I'm going to do next, I always grab the gesso. My homemade texture paste, I've really been enjoying this. It seems to be holding up on the pages that I've used it already. And wow, I don't know why I never thought of looking up a recipe for this in the past, but I really am pleased with that recipe. So I kind of have a little bit of the squares and circles going on here. And I kind of like that, contrasting shapes. Contrasting? How do you say it? It's contrasting. Contrasting. Isn't that weird how sometimes you can say a word and all of a sudden it doesn't sound right? I love to watch British TV, and I catch myself saying things different, probably because I've been hearing them speak a certain way on the TV programs. I use words I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. What am I doing here? Okay, let's get back to the project. Maybe I should just cut these off. Need a better visual. Get rid of these edges. Okay, that looks better. So I have my Stabilo All pencil, which is water soluble. So I am just putting a little bit of a border around each of those circles. I felt like they really needed a little bit more defined border. And now I'm just scratching a little bit along the edges, and I can add water to this later if I wanted to bring it more of a shadow, but right now I just feel like I need to define the edges of all of this. And then I am getting my permanent Identi pen because I want this to really stay defined. So I think she's going to live right here in the corner. What do you think? Yep. Yep. I think that's her home. So now I'm adding a little bit of water before I paste her down, just to put some shadows behind each of these elements. They will kind of pop out at you. Give it a little bit of dimension. You don't need much water. I always recommend starting with a little bit less than what you think you need because it will spread very quickly. So going back to those original colors that I added, I really just, you know, I don't know, the book pages were awfully blank, so I'm just putting a little dab out and just rubbing it on here and there with my finger. Just a very light around the edges, and that'll give these a little bit more of a sphere look, almost like shaded but not quite. And just giving each one of these elements, and again, contrasting colors. I don't want pink on pink or blue on blue, so I'm trying to bring those colors into an area where they weren't. Does that make sense? Again, just a very light, just a hint of color. I really like the way that looks. Now here's the part where you have to say, okay, now, is it enough? Sometimes you need to stop, soak it in before you get crazy and go too far. I've done that before. It's very disappointing. But again, if you do go too far, you should get out your trusty gesso and push it back again. All right, Christina, it's fun, but let's stop. Let's stop. So a couple of areas where maybe I might have gone a little too far. I'm pushing back with my gesso, my handy gesso. So I got out these stamps, and as you can see, there's a whole bunch of little remnants because they were putting way too much mess around the edges. So I kind of trimmed them down a bit. If you're wondering what all my little scraps are, I got crazy. But just stamped out the little saying that says, "Who wants to be normal when being different is so amazing?" I think that's the question of the year. I think it's always best to have individual words that you can play with where you want them, or smaller bits of the phrase. Just obviously when you're trying to lay out your pages, whatever makes it the easiest, that's what you should do. Then once I get done cutting these all up, I will get out my archival stamp pad and put a darker border around each one of these. And then I'm, again, playing with my layout here. What's the best way? What do I want the composition to finally be? What's the easiest way to read the sentiment? And I feel like I want it to reside completely on the left-hand side, but I'm struggling with that a little bit. Nope, it needs to be all on the left. I kind of like that. Let's paste her down. And I get a lot of questions. I almost always use my art glitter glue, but any kind of glue works, but I tend to want to use those with a little bit more substance to them, because they tend to dry a little bit faster, don't move around as much. And but art glitter glue, I also use Elmer's Glue All and Aleene's Tacky Glue. Those are probably my favorites. Or matte medium. Yeah, I feel like off-centered. I kind of like that. I like that. That's where she's going. So sorry, little missy, I'm putting glue all over your face here. That's what's unfortunate. But that's my girl right there. Oh, yeah. I love her. And I'm just outlining her again with my Stabilo. Bit of shading. Just wetting it slightly with a little wet, damp brush. Now this is a Uniball Vision Elite pen, and I'm going to warn you, this will smudge if you run your finger across it before it's had a good chance to dry. So just be careful. But it's great for drawing on a art journal page that has different mediums on it. Seems to want to write across anything. So I love it for that. One final thing I just felt like I really needed to do was pull this little element that is in the image out to the page that will kind of just draw everything together. I thought that was really fun. One last little thing. And guys, I really appreciate you hanging out with me today. And don't forget to hit the like button. And if you enjoy watching my videos, don't forget to subscribe, and look forward to seeing you back next time.